A worn fabric hangs, fallen on by blue blossoms of an unknown tree.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Solacene. This week we are going to be talking about the fabric of the Solacene.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Episode title.
I like it. And then we're going to wrap up by talking about our Solacene uniforms, what we would ideally wear in the ideal, beautiful, sustainable, tactile future. But to structure this episode, we decided to play a bit of a good cop, bad cop sort of situation, a new cop, old cop.
Yeah, new cop, old cop.
Yeah. So you're going to be sharing with us cool, innovative fabrics of the Solacene.
Mostly, yeah. And you're going to be talking about the boring things. And watch on YouTube because we also have some props, which is very podcasty.
It is very
It's actually poor
podcasty,
podcast form, I think. But
given that it's an audio format and we have props.
Yeah.
But I thought it was fun, and I'm going to kind of test you maybe based on your touch abilities.
Oh, you're going to quiz me?
Yeah.
The thing is, I can see them. So I don't know if it's just touch, but...
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
So to start off, close your eyes. Okay, and then touch this. What do you think this is made out of?
Oh, can I smell it?
If you
No, I'm
want,
not going to smell
but
it. Does it start with an L?
No.
With an H?
No.
Q?
Nope.
Paper.
No. Okay. Thanks for that. This is one of the... Okay.
Polyester.
It is polyester.
Okay.
Isn't that so deceitful, though? Because
Yeah.
I've owned this dress for a year or two. My friend gave it to me secondhand.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was linen. And so when I was getting ready my sample clothings, I was like, oh, this is a linen dress. And I checked the tag. And it's 50% viscose, 50% polyester.
Well, when I opened my eyes and could tell because I could see the pilling on it. I feel like polyester often has that kind of thing.
It does. So the least Solacene material that I'm going to be talking about today is synthetics. Mainly polyester because that's just kind of what we all know it as. It's the most commonly used material in the world.
Just stop oil.
Just stop oil.
Just
Yeah.
stop.
And what's polyester made out of? Oil. And like, when you think about it, who wants to be wearing oil? That's not very fashionable.
Well, you know when people say, oh, who first looked at a cow's udders and thought, delicious? You know when people say stuff like that? I think I drink milk.
You
know,
do.
so sometimes that test kind of fails.
Mhm.
Oil, you see it swirling around. It has nice colors in it.
Oh, yeah.
Oil spills can be beautiful. They can be.
It's true.
And so you think, wow, if humans can somehow harness this raw power and wear it, almost like when we used to wear the furs of animals we caught.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's true.
You wear the skins of the planets that you've destroyed.
Yeah. Wow. Very deep. But
Deep mining.
it's true.
He's on a roll.
Oh my goodness.
That haiku, by the way, that started the episode.
Yeah.
You didn't ask about it. You don't care, or?
Oh my, I'm sorry.
Oh, I know why. It's because we recorded this episode. Just before we started recording this, we were going for about 15, 16 minutes. And then I looked at the laptop and Alicia was talking and there was just nothing. And the whole time it just hadn't been recording her voice at all. So
Yeah.
listeners should feel grateful that they're getting anything this week, basically. But the haiku was inspired by a tiny book that you bought me this week. Actually, one of the smallest books I've ever seen.
It's really small.
Really small. It probably looks like it has about 19 pages in. Still haven't finished it. I don't know what that says about me. But it's not a volume of haikus. It's more of a how-to or a historical grounding in the art of haiku and how it can and perhaps shouldn't be or should be translated into English to varying degrees of success. I feel like mine was pretty successful. Tried to abide by the rules of haiku, and there's this kind of internal comparison between blossoms of an unknown tree, and it just says a fabric. So it could be any fabric. That's kind of the thing, the mystery of it. And I also can't take full credit because it's over 50% plagiarized from a bachelor poem. But I feel like if you acknowledge the plagiarism, it's fine.
It's not plagiarism anymore.
Yeah. Great artists
Self-plagiarism.
steal, so that's what we
True.
do. Anyway, polyester.
More on polyester, yeah. So polyester, I don't fully hate any fabrics.
That would be weird.
It would be, but it would be characteristic of me,
Sure.
I think. So polyester has its things. Like, when it's raining, you really want a polyester raincoat. Do you agree?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I like it for its like waterproofness, and it's strong and durable, which is good.
Yeah.
In a way that some natural fibers aren't. Like some natural fibers just wear away. Fur has like a very short lifespan unless it's kept at the right temperature, sort of thing.
I mean, today in Montreal, actually, we're probably going to be watching it out the window as we record.
Yeah.
There's this big bike race. And so we're going to see like hundreds of cyclists go by. And I have a feeling they're not going to be wearing many natural fibers.
It's true.
But maybe something we can talk about next week is athletic clothes that aren't terrible and full of evil microplastics. Let's talk about microplastics.
Let's talk about them because I have some information about microplastics for you. So microplastics have been found in all parts of the human body.
The human heart.
The human heart. Babies. Fresh babies have plastics in them. So when you hear that, do you think maybe what I want to do is wear plastics on my skin? Not really. But I think it's like because the harms of the microplastics haven't been fully fleshed out, people aren't as afraid of them as perhaps we should be.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do the research on this, but I think also the research is in this annoyingly fledgling stage on microplastics, so everything sounds kind of like conspiratorial or whatever.
I know.
But I think it's mainly the washing into the water stream that kind of is the killer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not entirely the wearing, although I don't think that's good for you either. Kind of like microwaving plastic bowls, right?
Yeah, think about it like that.
It's probably not that good to eat out of it, but the worst thing is when you microwave it. Unfortunately, kind of have to wash clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you?
Well, here's the thing. Patagonia, for example, their fleece are made out of plastic. They're not real wool fleece. And they suggest on their website to spot clean them. So like maybe you get a little stain or a little bit of dirt on it, just wash it with a cloth instead of putting it through the wash. Because putting things in the washing machine as frequently as we do, we'll also talk about this later on in another episode about like caring for clothes, but that's the easiest way to break them down and make them last less time. And yeah, it just breaks off little pieces of plastic, microfibers they're called, because they're different than microplastics, which can be kind of the size of a pencil, like in diameter. But these are even smaller. But then they bioaccumulate in the fish we eat, in the water we drink, in our blood. And it's just like, it doesn't feel good or right. And I think we need to just have an awareness of this. There's companies who are creating filters to put on your washing machines to catch the microfibers, which is cool, but they're still not perfect.
I mean, it also doesn't help what's already out there, which is, as you said, everywhere.
Yeah.
Something like in like the most far off remote regions of soil. They find microplastics.
Yeah, the depths of the ocean, there's some.
Yeah.
So.
Nice.
It's like, just don't buy any new ones.
Let's talk about in the solar scene, though.
Yeah, like in
no
the
microplastics,
scene.
Some genius figured out a way to biodegrade them all.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just like, the reason that I chose this as the least Solacene fiber is because I really think it won't exist. Full stop. Perhaps there'll be some produced that are recycling the existing ones.
Well, that's why I balked at your idea of we need them in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
It's like for a long time we were in the rain without them.
Mm-hmm.
Even riding bikes without them.
Yeah.
So my first fabric, in order of Solaceness, start with the least, is fur. F-U-R, fur. And I'm also talking about silk later on. I feel like fur is kind of like winter silk.
I can see that.
Because, as in, it's this luxury, rare thing that only comes out in certain weather situations. You can't wear silk in the winter, can't wear fur in the summer. Or, I mean, most people wouldn't. And it's like, you're not going to see them in elementary school. Like, the kids are all taking off their snow pants. Not the ones I went to anyway. The kids are all taking off their snow pants, and there's one guy with just like this, dressed like a bear or something.
Mm-hmm.
And also in the summer, you're not going to see people wearing silk in elementary schools. I don't know why I came up with that comparison. But anyway, some of the fur animals, foxes, mink, rabbits, beavers, muskrats. And then the favorite one that I learned about, favorite is a weird word, I guess, the fin raccoon, which is the industry term for tanuki.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of a funny thing to learn. Have you ever owned anything fur?
I have not owned anything fur.
You have an ethical objection to fur?
I think so.
Do you think we at Solacene, us being the only two solar sites, should present a blanket in the Solacene? Everyone has an ethical objection to fur? Here's what I think. I'll state my opinion.
Yeah, you go first.
So 80% of fur clothing comes from farms, fur farms.
So it's not just a byproduct.
No.
comes from a
The
farm.
byproduct is the rest of the animal.
Yeah.
Which is almost always, it's kind of morbid, but almost always just incinerated or...
So funny.
Because it seems so cruel.
It really is beyond.
Or processed, converted into food for other animals.
Yeah, that is.
And so I think that's not very Solacene.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I can say it because I am 50% of the Solacene. That's not very Solacene. But if, for instance, as in my high school, when there was just this weird black market fur trade happening where students were keeping rabbits in their lockers, going out at lunchtime and catching them in the woods surrounding our school, and then just trading all the furs and the meat and all that kind of stuff, selling it to teachers sometimes. That's actually probably fine in Solacene because they're using, like, there's a respect to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, furs weren't invented on like high fashion in the 1900s. It was used for many, many years by a lot of different cultures in northern climates, mostly because they needed to because they were in the north, but also as like, well, we're going to eat this rabbit anyway. Might as well wear it too. That's kind of nicer.
When I was introduced to vegetarianism when I was like pretty young, because not many people I knew were vegetarian, but then I had one dance teacher who said, I'm vegetarian, but I'm not vegan because I wear leather because I think it should use the whole animal. And that always stuck with me as like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, we're going to be, like, people will always probably consume animal products, so there'll always be these quote unquote byproducts. But because the demand is higher than the actual availability, we have to start farming millions of animals.
I just think, like, me looking at it kind of as an ignorant outsider, because I know there's like a lot of contention and discussion about fur and history. I saw that it's 4 million foxes killed a year on the fur farms, 50 million mink. It seems pretty much adjacent to the ivory trade, and almost everyone will agree that that is not a good thing. So it seems very similar to me if you're not actually eating it.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're next.
My next will be leather, which is really similar to fur. Yeah. But the reason that I'm so opposed to leather is there's like the obvious deforestation, animal cruelty side of it.
Deforestation? What do you mean?
So it's not just the leather, but just like bovine leather is cow leather. That's the most common, and obviously cow is like the most common meat produced across the world. So a lot of the Amazon rainforest has been cut down to allow space for the cows. So using the
land for agriculture, basically.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And so, yeah, there's just like a lot of trees being cut down to have homes for the cows. And then when the cows eat, their secretions are really bad for the environment. It is just like quite toxic, more toxic than carbon dioxide because it is methane, which is more potent as a greenhouse gas. There's all of that side of it, like the animal side of it. But the processing of leather is also just terrible for everyone involved, everyone upstream, downstream. It's beyond. I mean, last week on the episode about color, I was talking about arsenical greens, but to process leather, they're still using arsenic, believe it or not. And so the people who are processing it have a way higher rate of cancer. It's like 5 times, and that's in Kentucky, let alone developing countries.
But leather was also used for many years before arsenic.
Yeah, that's true. But the mass scale of it is what demands all these carcinogenic and toxic chemicals.
So again, it's reduce, process, kind of boring stuff.
It is.
You know what's not boring?
What?
I'm trying to think of what's the next Solacene one. Silk.
Silk.
Which is kind of like the summer fur when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when you think about an elementary school, the kids, they wouldn't be wearing the... I don't know what I'm talking about. So what is silk? It comes from insects.
What?
Yeah, that's so gross. Insect larvae, they use this stuff to make cocoons, and then we harvest it and use it to make nice sleeping clothes. I feel like people often sleep in silk.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's really cool.
It's so cool.
It is really cool.
But I think it's cool on both levels. It's temperature regulating.
Mm-hmm.
It's also eco.
It is pretty eco.
So that's kind of my first thought on silk from a Solacene perspective, is that it sounds like a fantasy fabric.
Yeah, for
There's
sure.
just these worms. Oh, like there's a ton of insects that can do it, which I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Moths.
Isn't that crazy?
other caterpillars, these mulberry silkworms. And I also found this thing called sea silk.
Sea silk?
And that just sounds like an invention, right?
What?
Which is very rare and very fine. And it's from the stuff secreted by these big clams, which are called pen shells.
Wow.
I know, it just sounds... I could have just invented that whole thing.
And I'd believe you.
Yeah, you would. But I think, why is this Solacene? Beautiful. Very ornate.
It is.
And even more important, I think, for clothes than how it looks, how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
Very tactile. Feels nice on the skin. Who'd have thought that would be a pleasant idea for clothing?
Apparently not the industry.
It's also the strongest natural textile. And I read, put however much stock into this as you want, that it is stronger than Kevlar, and that the first bulletproof vest was made with silk. Yeah.
That's so strange, because when you think of silk, you think
delicate.
Of dainty.
Oh, I could just rip it with my fingers.
No.
Or my teeth.
Yeah. Do you own anything silk?
No. I want to, though.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very gendered thing also, isn't it?
It is, a bit. There's different types, like it doesn't always have to be shiny,
Maybe
as
if I
you're
got a bulletproof vest, that would be for men.
Manly.
When I walk into the grocery store.
You're not... Yeah. Yeah, I like silk quite a lot. For a while, I had this fascination with owning something silk because I didn't own anything silk.
Right.
And then a few years ago, I now have one or two things, all secondhand, and yeah,
it takes more than
pretty
5,000 silkworms to produce 1 kilogram of the stuff, though.
Yeah.
So from a sustainability perspective, maybe it's not as good as the next one. I don't care if you're supposed to go next. I'll go next. Seaweed.
Tell me about seaweed.
I don't have much to say about seaweed because I think it's been in the discussion quite a lot over the last few years as like, look, seaweed, kind of akin to, we always joke about superfoods. Blueberry. Isn't that a superfood? People talk about it as if it's like this definitive categorization. Like, oh, it's not quite a superfood. As if there's just like, I don't know, some percentage of it that needs to be good for you. I feel like people talk about seaweed actually also from a superfood perspective, but just like as a super material. You can build with it. You can make clothes with it. You can eat it. You can use it for couches and everything. And I actually do think that's all really cool and really Solacene. And so I don't have much else to say except seaweed. It just seems cool. And I want something I want something made of kelp and algae. I mean, spoilers, because we might get to that a little bit later in our dream uniforms, which is what we're ending the episode with. But my pros and cons. So the pros basically is that seaweed is very sustainable because it's so abundant and it's just like, I don't know, it's good.
Yeah, and it's like it doesn't even need fresh water to be produced, which is a big part of the issue with materials. And
it's kind of has this fantasy vibe akin to silk, what I was saying. Like, it doesn't sound real. It's like, oh, what are you wearing? Seaweed. And then you see it, and then you see it on the person, and it looks kind of bizarre. And also that I was learning, it has all these kind of purported esoteric health benefits, or it has a reputation of that. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
Well, there's a lot of companies like Pangea, for example, or Pangea, right? Like that's a eco-friendly kind of streetwear style, cool brand, and they use seaweed. I don't think they use anything 100% seaweed. It's all merged with cotton or whatever, or polyester, and I'm not sure. And so in the descriptions, they're talking about all like antioxidants and like different nutritional benefits, even though minerals involved. It's like, but you're just wearing it, and it's not like it soaks into your skin. But the reason I have this as a pro is because it would be kind of cool to believe that.
Yeah.
I'm a very big placebo boy. That could be my name. So it's kind of like, if you gave me this and told me that it's all these things, I would love wearing it.
Yeah.
And I'd feel like a superhero when I wear it. So that's why I think it's a pro. And the cons is just that I feel like from a spiritual perspective, it might be mildly degrading to wear.
Okay.
Because like when you look at it, it's just like this thing that smells awful on the beach and you try and avoid it. And then you step on the hard ones and you're like, ah. And it doesn't look like something you want to be draping yourself in to feel like a conqueror.
Yeah, speaking of a spiritual objection, I feel like with silk, going back a little bit, ever since learning about how silk was made, I don't think I could ever buy fresh silk.
What do you mean fresh?
Like firsthand.
Okay.
Like new. Unless it was piece silk, which I asked you if you knew about.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of cool because a lot of when silk harvesters harvest silkworms, they gas them all so that the worms or the moths or the whatever in the cocoons die and they don't break out of their cocoons. So then the silk isn't like broken. But piece silk lets the creatures live, which I think is good because they're just so small. And like, why would we be killing thousands of them for a nice skirt, even if it's bulletproof? Just saying. But that was something that I thought was cool, that piece silk exists.
Eco.
It's eco. My next fiber. So I have 1, 2. Okay, my next one is going to be this. Close your eyes. What do you think this is, Aaron? Ooh.
Cotton.
Cotton. Everyone watching on YouTube, I have a cotton plant because I think it's kind of neat. And as you said earlier, it looks like kind of mold spores or something that would like be on a deserted planet.
Yeah, as I said earlier when we were recording this.
Yeah, when we were recording this episode.
I also am reminded of when you brought in the garlic plant, and I was like, this looks like the Good Witch's magic wand.
Yeah.
This kind of looks like an evil guy's magic wand.
Yeah.
Like he's covered in fungus, and he has like molds growing all over him, and he zaps with this, and then the place just kind of gets stinky.
Yeah. So, cotton. The reason that I don't like cotton that much is because of how much of it is made. Like, on its own, this is harmless. Like, in a small batch, it'd be fine. But because cotton is the most prolific material on the planet for clothing besides polyester, it's just produced unsustainably, as is many things. It's like, yeah, you can sustainably do anything. You can sustainably eat sugar. You can sustainably run marathons, but there's ways to like unsustainably do it.
Yeah, we like the brand Cotton with a K.
Mm-hmm.
Kotn.
Yeah.
Shout out. That kind of... Would you take that sponsorship?
Absolutely.
Would you beg for it?
Probably. Today I was walking down the street with this cotton plant in my cotton tote bag, and I was like, I feel like this is someone's going to think I'm going to film an advertisement.
Yeah.
And I would say, yeah, I am.
I think they use Egyptian cotton though.
They do use Egyptian cotton. And cotton grows all over the world, which is kind of neat. I just assumed it was endemic to like one area because it feels really like it needs certain conditions to grow, you know?
No.
To me it does.
You know what I know about cotton though?
What do you know?
It uses a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
And also I would nickname it like the water monster.
Okay. Stealing my nicknames.
Yeah, you nicknamed all your fabrics, right?
Yeah, but I forgot to share them because I got caught up in...
Okay, what was the polyester one?
Polyester was called the problematic particles.
Okay. Were you just going for all alliteration?
Yeah. And... yeah.
So I think you're kind of angling for like an 80s cartoon where there's like a green hero, probably you, facing off against all these
the water
fabrics.
Monster and so on, yeah. So cotton, for the most part, is picked by hand, which I found shocking, mainly because in America, which is what we're probably most familiar with because we're close, it's mainly mechanized because cotton is super subsidized. America is still one of the biggest producers of cotton in the world, but the subsidies put the cost of their cotton like 60 cents per meter above everywhere else, and it's not like it's expensive to export, but the farmers make more because it's subsidized. Like, that's how subsidies work.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that they can make way more because they can pay for their nice machines, and then it puts a ton of pressure on everywhere else in the world that isn't subsidized to make their cotton cheaper, therefore more competitive with the American market. But this leads to a lot of slave and child labor in the picking.
Right.
Because the machines are very costly. And in Uzbekistan, there's still kids, like middle school, high school, who are annually kind of sent off, like, you know how we have like end of school trips?
Yeah.
It's like that, but labor.
Well, I guess they have nimble fingers.
Yeah.
Good for picking cotton.
Yeah, and it's just the worst conditions imaginable, and this happens not just in Uzbekistan, but all over the world. And any attempts from outside organizations to kind of interfere and say, hey, how about we stop doing the child labor thing? Thought we learned this 100 years ago. It's just met with a lot of obstinance because if the industry is shut down, as I was kind of talking about in the first episode, the whole economy of the country would collapse. And it's what makes sustainability, especially sustainable fashion, a wicked problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and cotton is probably the most, like, bloody the most bloody material. And that's saying something given that fur and leather are, like, actual animal lives. But this is just because of how many pesticides are used. Like, the farmers are poisoned every year. People are taking their lives because their crops are, like, failing. And it's not good. So check your cotton. Make sure it starts with a K.
Yeah.
That sounds like we're super sponsored, but we're not. Just, like, make sure your cotton is produced sustainably, as you said, or just stop buying things.
Yeah, just don't buy it.
Yeah.
Period. Think twice next time you walk into the Gap or Old Navy and there's the 27-cent shorts.
Yeah.
Or the $2 t-shirt, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Or just buy it secondhand, or just don't buy it. Or just buy it secondhand. Or just don't buy it. I also forgot to read this quote out about seaweed, which I thought was funny. It was from an article on Hypebeast called "Can Seaweed Become the Future of Sustainable Fashion?" And it just said, "Plucked from the seabed, algae is now being used to create an entirely different type of drip."
That's really funny.
Custom built for the future.
Mm. Okay.
Do you have drip?
No.
Do I?
A little.
I think leather is one of my favorite things to touch.
It's cool.
It's very eco.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not eco, but it's eco. It's tactile.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of beautiful.
I think it's great. It's durable, lasts forever.
Good fabric.
Yeah.
Good fabric.
So I'd rather have one pair of leather boots that are going to last me 15 years than plastic boots that are going to break down in like a year. Because the thing also with these animal products is that at the end of their life, be it 20 or 40 years, it will actually break down. Whereas if you have your plastic boots that you buy every 5 years, they're just going to last for millions of years on the planet.
Okay, I have two more. My next one is kind of a bucket of several different types of fabrics and fibers. And I just wrote down miscellaneous weird stuff.
Okay.
And do you want to guess what's in this?
Orange leather.
Orange leather, mushroom leather, coconut, corn I learned about, cork. Also, yeah, that's a thing. Nice whistle there. Banana. You know, all these types of weird things.
Yeah.
What else? Just make one up and it's probably apples, I think you can use.
You can.
All the fruits. Melons.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Owl.
So I was just like, these are neat. I do always cringe a little bit when shoe stores and brands will advertise in like big letters like, oh, 100% vegan on their shoes. And it's like, you're doing this because it's cheaper for you. Mm-hmm. And also, everybody knows from an aesthetic point of view that mushroom leather shoes, not the best.
Yeah.
But for the fabrics, bamboo maybe can be thrown in here as well, even though I think that's a little bit more like just a generic like cellulose thing, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's really neat. And pineapple fabric, people in the Philippines have been using that since the 17th century. That's not even some wacko new Silicon Valley leftist. I don't know. It's just not even some wacky new thing. Like it's a traditional thing. The fabric when I looked at it online, looked a lot like hemp or linen, just like this very airy, light kind of thing. And so I kind of looked at pineapples as the example, and there are 40,000 tons of leaves every year that go to waste. And it's the leaves that they make the fabric from. Yeah. So basically, they use the fibers from those leaves and then weave it, and then you can wear it and kind of be like SpongeBob, I guess, in a weird way. If you really enshroud yourself in it. Yeah, I think so. I think the thing with all of these ideas for fabrics, old and new, is like, yeah, that's awesome. But we don't all of a sudden want to be growing 18 times the amount of pineapples every year just for their leaves and then throwing out the juicy bits. Exactement, the juicy bits. Because you can eat pineapples. Exactly. So just like saying, okay, every year we're going to need 100 pineapples. That's how many leaves we're going to get. If we're out of t-shirts and you need a new one, you have to find another material or whatever. And not like kind of letting the demand... Farm. Exactly. Like let the demand be a bit less of the driving force and just demand less from the planet. My next one is called my pet fiber. Any guess what that is? Your pet fiber? Mm-hmm. Wool? Yeah, it is wool. I know why, because your pet is a sheep. Yeah, do you want to touch the wool? Bah. Scratchy, right? Yeah. Yeah. So wool, as I always knew it growing up, was scratchy, worsted wool, which is what grows in England. Grows. Yeah, like my jacket. Yeah. So like wool is nice and scratchy sometimes, but if it is merino wool, which is endemic to
Australia, then it's much softer because the fibers are thinner. If it is cashmere, which doesn't even come from sheep, it comes from
Cashmere goats.
goats. Yeah,
Cashmere goats.
exactly.
With a K.
Because that's the area that they're from. So it takes 3 to 6 goats to make a cashmere sweater, which I didn't realize. And these goats only molt every 4 years, whereas normal sheep, like just your average sheep, I mean, they still have to be cultivated. It doesn't happen as much in the wild.
Yeah.
It's like about a year. Like they molt once a year.
Have you ever owned anything cashmere?
I have, actually.
Really?
Yeah, secondhand, and I shrunk it.
Oh.
Yeah,
nice.
It was a shame. But I think cashmere is cool. I just love wool in all of its shapes and forms.
Yeah, I haven't owned cashmere, but I touched it one time. There was someone that we know who was just really showing it off, and I felt like some kind of street urchin, the way he kind of like stooped to my level and was like, "Here, touch it. It's cashmere." And I did. And he was like, "Feels nice, doesn't it?" And I was kind of begrudging, like, "Yeah, it really does feel nice."
It really does. Yeah. So there was like in the early 2000s, like a cashmere boom, and then the cashmere goat herds sextupled. And the thing is, they live in the Gobi region, which is like a desert, but there's lots of dunes, so water can pool. So it's like people still have water and stuff, but because the goats' feet are not equipped the way that like camels' feet are, they broke down a lot of the sand dunes, and now Gobi region has turned into the Gobi Desert. More so, it's been desertified.
So wool, why do we like that fabric?
I think it's great. It lasts a really long time as long as you keep your mothballs with it when you put it away in the winter, so the moths don't eat it. Really, like,
smells nice.
Yeah, it's cool. And the sheep have been bred to produce wool, so that's why vegans are against wool, because naturally they don't produce as much as they do. But I think there's still ways to do it sustainably. And the only real downside that I heard about wool production is this thing called mulesing, which is where, because they've been bred to have so many folds in their skin, so there's more fur, is that flies will like lay their eggs in the folds of the sheep, which causes them like a really slow and painful death.
Oh.
And so the farmers this is the whole thing with farming we'll get to in our food semester, of like, there's things that seem so horrendous to us as outsiders, but the farmers know that by mulesing the sheep, which is kind of cutting off the folds, which is bad to think about, but it's just a horrible image, and like PETA and everyone who sees this is like, what is going on? Like, they've cut off pieces of the sheep while they're still alive. And it's like, really, it's for the betterment of the sheep. But had we not bred them to be like this, they wouldn't have to do this. Anyway, I think wool just has a lot of potential. It's great, versatile. You can knit and crochet with it. Pro wool. So my final one is linen, which is made from the flax plant. Linen is the most solacine because it's just the better version of everything. It doesn't take much water. It doesn't attract pests, so you don't need to use pesticides on it or herbicides. Like, it just grows really well, quickly. It's processed without chemicals. You don't have to bleach it the way you do with cotton. And I learned the reason we bleach cotton is because they have a lot of mold and bacteria and fungi on them.
But is there no way to treat that without bleaching it white?
Apparently not.
I don't buy it. Because there are some.
Yeah, but it's like, it has to be grown in a certain way.
Yeah, why
the
not
way we're growing
we
it.
could just do that, though.
Yeah, we could. But anyway, flax doesn't have that problem. And
so that's why flax is all. That's why linen is linen colored.
Yeah,
and not all white.
Exactly. It's also grown. 85% of the world's linen is grown in Europe, so it's a bit more centralized for like the fashion industry, I guess.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be shipped all over the place the way that cotton kind of does.
Let me tell you why I don't like linen.
Tell me.
See-through.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like wearing it because I feel like people can see my skin underneath.
Yeah.
And also very Mamma Mia.
We
use that as an adjective. I think people get what that means.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have to be.
Doesn't it?
It doesn't. I'll get to that in my outfit. But
so my most solacine fabric. Well, what's a fabric anyway? What is fabric?
Okay.
What does fabric mean?
Fabric of the universe.
Yeah, my most solacine fabric of the universe is seashells. She sells seashells by the seashore.
She does. Speaking of Mamma Mia.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit ironic for me to denounce something as Mamma Mia in one moment and then extol seashells in the next. But seashells are really cool. Obviously, this is more of a more of an adornment thing, more of an accessory, more of a buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Buttons on the shirts, things you wear on your body, around your wrists. Pearls. That's not a seashell, but
they're kind
of the sea.
Mm.
I did find some companies and startups that were doing like crushing shells that they found on the beach, like oyster shells, and then mixing it with other types of mostly synthetics, or like the biosynthetics.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like buttons that have swirls on them.
Yeah, that's cool.
I feel like that's a very Solacene thing. And also homeware. You can make plates out of them. Imagine having a shell plate.
It'd be wild.
It would be neat. I mean, we'd probably drop it and break it, like we do with all our core plates, but or eco plates. And I also found this one Japanese company that was using waste from the scallop fishing industry on this coast, the shells, to make helmets. Do you want to know what they call them?
No. Shellmets?
The shellmets.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding. They call them shellmets.
Oh my gosh, Nintendo ripped it from them.
Yeah, people uninformed. Actually, that is really kind of a niche thing that I'm thinking about it. In certain... That sounds so lame when I say it. In certain Mario games, they nickname one of the items a shellmet because Mario wears it on his head to break bricks. That sounds so lame, doesn't it? But it literally looks like that, except they're like bright colors.
That's so cool.
I'm talking about the real world ones.
I really want a shellmet.
Yeah. So they are, they're made from the shells.
That's awesome.
Shellmet. And I also found this article called The Art of Seashells that I recommend people read. It was just like a nice read, this really cool historical read about their use in high fashion and low fashion through history. It was on a website called minimuse.com, which sounds kind of weird, but The Art of Seashells.
Love it. Garment of the week.
Do 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 do.
That's not the original.
I don't remember the jingle.
These Tivas.
Oh, I can't believe you're showing those.
I know, they're filthy, and I was going to, like, wash them, and I was like, that's inauthentic.
Yeah, but I wish you had.
Tiva sandals.
So they're sandals that they were at one point white, just like a lot of things you want.
They were white.
They were at one point white. Now they're borderline black.
They're not that dirty.
I think people know what they look like. They have the foam soles and the nylon straps with the little buckle.
Here's the thing about these Tivas, is that I bought them secondhand and they were out of stock everywhere.
Oh my.
But
How many times do I have to hear this?
But when I was looking them up, they're back.
Oh, you found that they're back?
They're back, which saves me because you've been hearing about this for a year or so.
Is that why you were jumping around dancing before we recorded?
No, it's unrelated. But I'm so excited because these are the one pair of shoes, full stop, that I love and that fit me and are comfortable. I've walked miles in these things. I've walked across Europe. I've walked across Canada, everywhere. And they're wonderful. They're versatile. They're called the original Dorado sandals. They bring gladiator styling to the classic comfort and versatility of the originals collection. Equal parts water ready and earth friendly.
Yeah, you can walk into the sea with those, can't you?
And I have. They're great because you can wear them. I've worn them kayaking, and then you feel gross because you step into the gross East River where I live, and you get poisoned, but with these you feel less likely. They quick dry, which is awesome. They have grippy bottoms, and they're easy to clean. They're made from recycled polyester. They're my favorite things ever, and I am probably going to get a new pair because they are almost in shambles. They're really close to the edge of their life. I think I'll get 1 or 2 more years out of them, but I'm just happy to know that they're not going extinct because I don't know if I'd ever wear shoes again.
Maybe one of those people you buy like 10 pairs just in case.
It's kind of like
stock up.
Yeah, that's what I am with these shoes. I highly recommend, but please don't go buy them all because I want a pair. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Okay, the Solacene outfit, the part that everybody was waiting for now that we got past all the boring environmental impacts. Yeah. I guess we rambled a bit though, so we should probably rush through this. I'll start. Do you want to guess what the predominant color is?
Brown.
Of course, brown. So I have, it's basically 4 things. I like wearing as few things as possible. Mm-hmm. I'll start from like the closest to me out. Actually, I'll start from the bottom up. The shoes. I really like the Japanese style of tabi shoes. They have a split toe. So it's kind of like, they look like a mitten, where the mitten still has the thumb separate.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that.
I like
So
that,
there's
but for your big toe.
For the big toe. And it's for flexibility and comfort and stability and all those boring things. Tabi, I'm probably mispronouncing it, but it literally translates to foot bag. And so my Solacene shoes would be like that. They would be leather. They would be white. And what I have written down is for prancing and being a bard.
Why not? Really? Yeah.
And I also came up with a bit of a backstory for where I would get all these things from.
Okay.
So these, I wrote, obtained from a very old Japanese leather shoemaker on a foggy island. Because I feel like it'll be a bit of a dying art or something.
Mm.
They also have, like, on the top, near the ankle, they're just shoes, but they have kind of a boot-like extension made of knit. And obviously this Japanese legendary shoemaker wouldn't have done this. But as I said on a previous episode of the semester, I like the idea of upgrading one's clothes. So I would buy these from him, probably custom made or something. Maybe help him forge them. It'll be like in the fantasy series where they go and get the sword.
Okay.
It'd be like that, but with shoes. And then I would somehow upgrade them with this knit extension, possibly so I don't have to wear socks. I'm not sure about the practicality of that, but I don't like socks, as you know. And also socks with these shoes would be difficult because they have the split.
Yeah.
So that's that. Moving up, most of my legs would be exposed.
Obviously.
As I have written here, exposed legs for temperature control. I kind of labeled it like a car.
Yeah.
But above that is some shorts. And they would be enclosed with no zip because I don't like zips. In Solacene, I think there's no
zippers.
Zips.
Okay.
It would be buttons, probably buttons from the seas, and also ties. Basically, I think zips are just ugly and also rather inhuman.
They wear out really quickly, too.
This is not something that's like, yeah, put that on my skin. It's
Pinch you?
Yeah, pinching. The shorts are quite normal. They're brown, but they're kind of baggy. As you know, I like how things puff out, how they balloon, and they cinch near the knee. Cinch with some, I guess, with a tie. Is cinch an official word? Okay, so they cinch. And then above that is a shirt, which is also brown. It is made of the same material as the shorts because I obtained it from the same source, which was you.
Okay.
And the reason I say you do it for me, what I have written down is Leash makes for me as a set, the t-shirt and the shorts, because she knows my temp.
In the Solacene, I will be the only clothing manufacturer and everyone has to come to me.
No, just for me.
Yeah, I know.
You'll be like, I don't know, my on-site tailor, I guess.
Okay, sounds good.
And these would be a linen seaweed blend.
Cool.
So linen, as I said, I don't like the see-throughness, but seaweeds
Make it more opaque.
Yeah, more opaque. And the thing with this shirt is it would have a bit of a mock neck. I've written down for mocking. And also, I like neck coverings. There was a few months ago when I was like, had the idea of wearing some kind of old-fashioned, like, gentlemanly scarf. Do you remember that? Like an ascot or something.
Yeah.
But what I have written down is this is more of an everyday outfit.
Okay.
So it's not a formal or exercise, nothing like that. It's what I wear every day for barding, for mocking, all these kind of things.
I just got a glimpse of your final object. Tell me about that.
One final detail on the t-shirt. I think most shirts like this have sleeves too short. I don't like how short they usually are. For instance, the one I'm wearing right now, so this one would go down to the elbows pretty much.
Yeah.
And I like to feel as if I'm in a cult, basically. So that's why I like the
mock neck and the long sleeves.
And the long sleeves. The final garment, really the cherry on top, is the cloak, which is also brown. What I have written down is hooded for anonymity, mystery, warmth, in brackets, frostbite, if you know, you know, and also mist. My vision of the Solacene this week has been very misty, and me kind of striding through it, potentially wearing with also a staff, something like that. I'm not sure. And this cloak is made of an itchy, coarse, medieval Lord of the Ringsy type material. And I was thinking perhaps you could advise me on what best that would be.
Probably wool.
Probably some kind of old wool,
Yeah.
right? Some old peasant wool or something like that.
Worsted wool.
Whatever that even means. And I have written down also, it has a similar vibe to your cape,
Mm-hmm.
which one of these days will be the garment of the week, I think.
Probably.
And also, it kind of fulfills my old burlap dreams. If you recall from my teenage years, I had a weird infatuation with burlap.
You did.
And I kept dreaming that I would one day own some things made out of it. And then I guess I realized that it's not really a clothing material.
It will give you a rash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this wool cloak, and the way I obtain this, I have written down, is I steal it. I steal it from a museum.
Okay.
Because of its purported properties of stealth and also healing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it seems a bit strange to be wearing this big, heavy cloak as well as shorts.
Mm.
But actually, that's prime
it's versatility. You can kind of.
It's kind of like a bougier version of the hoodie shorts combo. I need airflow, so gotta have those legs exposed.
Okay, so my outfit, I don't even know if I'm not gonna go into it because it's so boring in comparison.
I knew you'd pick something boring. I don't know why.
I'll go
you did
into
that.
one element of it,
Okay.
which I think is important for the soul scene, and you mentioned, which is scarves.
Yeah.
I think scarves, not like heavy wool scarves, but silk scarves are so undervalued. You can put them in your hair in so many ways. Around your neck. You can put them as like a belt. I think we need to bring scarves back in a big way. And that's what I think in the soul scene we will do, because it can make a boring outfit. Like mine was going to be basically jeans and a button up in some variation.
That was going to be your
like,
solo scene outfit. Your ideal utopian, beautiful,
great.
sustainable, tactile outfit.
But with the scarf,
Oy vey.
you can, that's kind of how the trends can, and the seasons even, can manifest themselves in what you're wearing.
Would you even carry a wand?
I'd carry a wand.
Okay.
I was also thinking flowers in the hair. Fresh flowers is just so great. I was laying in bed last night thinking to myself, how can I get my hands on some flowers for my hair?
Listening to the upstairs drill. Not drill music, for those wondering. Just someone with a really loud drill at 2 a.m.
At 2 a.m.
So shout out to them.
Shout out to them. If you're listening, please stop. Because we didn't sleep last night. But yeah, flowers in the hair, silk scarves, just like these dainty elements of kind of the materials we were talking about. It's like your everyday clothes need to be kind of simple and like durable.
If you were having a seashell thing,
Mm-hmm.
you could have one thing. What would you want it to be?
Earrings.
I would want some kind of like custom grown from the crab. Like I communicate with the crab in somehow. Shell that wraps around my wrist.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Thing is, you're the creative one. I don't have that in me.
Or the conch shell.
That's how you communicate. Like in the Soul Scene headquarters, you just
Blow
talk
it
into
and
it
everyone,
and then
let's go for lunch.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for listening. I hope you learned some things about fabrics. See you all next week.